Hello everyone. Even when the night feels long and uncertain, a small light still glows within my heart. Love is fragile, yet fierce. But what happens when another shadow steps in? Will CEO Toan's heart stay true, or will a third person shake the bond we've fought so hard to build? In love, the deepest fear is not losing but being replaced. This is the story of whether love can endure temptation or be swept away by doubt.
The wind at night whispered secrets only the heart could understand. A soft light flickered through the narrow window of a modest home, where a woman lay curled beneath a thin blanket, her body fragile, but her soul quietly resilient. Ly Tu Diem had returned to a place of solitude, not because she wanted to, but because life had pushed her there once again. Despite all she had survived: humiliation, betrayal, abandonment, her heart still beat with warmth. It was the last thing she owned that no one could take. In another corner of the city, where buildings stood tall and life moved quickly, CEO Toan found himself staring out his office window, the lights of the city blurring before his tired eyes. His world was full of contracts, strategy, and power. But ever since Diem had entered his life and saved it, none of it felt complete without her. He had wealth, but what he wanted was her presence. He had success, but what he missed was her smile. They had fought through storms together. He had protected her from the family that once treated her like an object. She had shown him the meaning of compassion in a world where love was often traded for status. But now, a new shadow quietly entered their story. Thong, a woman from Toan's past, beautiful, accomplished, and, perhaps most dangerously, available. She had returned from abroad with every intention of reclaiming the man she once let go. Thong was everything society deemed perfect for a man like Toan: classy, intelligent, from a powerful family. She knew how to speak with charm and carry herself with elegance. To everyone else, it made sense, a match made on paper. But to Toan, those were just empty check boxes. He didn't need a partner who fit a mold. He needed the woman who had held his hand in the forest when he couldn't remember his name. The one who fed him with foraged fruit when he had nothing. The one who walked away quietly, afraid of being a burden, not realizing she was his whole heart. But doubts are insidious things. Thong played her cards well, always showing up when Toan needed support, always reminding him of what life could be like without struggle. His mother, still unsure about Diem's past, started to entertain the idea that perhaps Thong was the safer choice. Even Toan, strong-willed and deeply in love, began to question, would life be easier if he let Diem go? And yet, in the quietest part of his soul, Toan knew the truth. One rainy evening, he found himself standing before the old house where Diem now stayed. She looked up in surprise, her face pale from days of exhaustion, but her eyes still gentle. "You came back," she whispered. Toan stepped closer, rain dripping from his coat. "I never left you, not in here." He placed a hand over his heart. "Even if the world doubts us, I won't." The third person had beauty, status, and all the reasons for him to choose differently. But Diem had his heart, and that, in the end, was enough. Love isn't measured by comfort or convenience. It's proven in the storms, in the moments when it's easier to walk away but you choose to stay. In a world full of choices and distractions, staying faithful to the one who saw you at your lowest and still believed in you, that is real strength. Toan didn't choose Diem because she was perfect. He chose her because she loved him, not for who he was on paper, but for the man he truly was inside. And that love, though small like a flickering light, stayed warm even in the coldest winds. Let us remember, Heart always knows where it belongs. That evening, Toan stood by the window of his office, city lights flickering like the thoughts in his heart. His fingers trembled slightly as he scrolled through the photos Thong had sent him, smiling, poised, and ever so kind. But no matter how perfect she seemed, her image could not warm the corners of his soul the way a single look from Diem once did. He recalled the day Diem nursed him back from the edge of memory and life. Her hands rough from hardship, but gentle in every touch. She hadn't tried to impress him, hadn't demanded anything. She had simply been there. That quiet loyalty had spoken louder than any grand gesture. But now, Diem was growing distant again. Ever since Thong appeared, Diem had begun packing her things in silence. When Toan asked her, she smiled and said it was time for her to stand on her own. She didn't want to be the burden people whispered about. His heart ached. Toan found her in the small guest room that night, folding her worn clothes with care. "You don't have to leave," he said softly. Stepping into the room, she looked up, eyes gentle but guarded. "I don't belong here, Toan. Maybe I never did." He shook his head. "No, you belong more than anyone else ever will. I didn't fight this far to let you walk away." Diem looked away, the pain in her heart flickering in her lashes. "But she's perfect for you. Educated, beautiful. Your mother likes her. I'm just someone who showed up with nothing." Toan took her hand, placing it over his chest. "You came with nothing, but you gave me everything. My life, my courage, my hope. Thong is kind, but she's not you." Tears welled up in her eyes, but still she hesitated. "What if your mother can never accept me? Then I will teach her how to," he whispered. "I won't let anything or anyone know, matter how gentle, how tempting, shake what I feel for you." There was silence, heavy and fragile. Then Diem finally leaned into him, not with the passion of a perfect romance, but with the trust of a soul finding its home again. Outside, the wind rustled the trees. A small light flickered in the hallway, and in the dim glow, their hearts remained warm, not perfect, not easy, but real. His presence at the company became more noticeable with each passing day. She wasn't just beautiful, she was also smart, decisive, and had a natural charm that drew people to her. She and Toan worked closely together on several new deals, and it wasn't long before whispers started floating through the hallways. Some said she was only doing her job. Others believed she had deeper intentions. Diem noticed the shift almost immediately. Toan began coming home later than usual, tired and distracted, though he still treated her with care. There was a quiet distance growing between them. Diem tried to dismiss her worries, telling herself she was just insecure. But the doubt weighed heavily in her chest. One evening, as Diem prepared a simple meal and waited for Toan, he messaged to say he had to attend a late dinner meeting with Thong. Diem's hands trembled as she put down her phone. She didn't want to doubt him. She didn't want to be the kind of person who gave in to fear. But her heart ached. At the dinner, Thong leaned in across the table and looked straight into Toan's eyes. "You know, you're not the same man you used to be," she said softly. "There's something different in you, more human, more grounded." "I wonder if that's because of her." Toan smiled, though he seemed distant. "Diem changed everything," he admitted. "She made me feel things I never knew I was missing." "But is she strong enough to stand beside you in this world?" Thong asked quietly. "Or is she just a sweet chapter in your life that's slowly closing?" The question lingered in Toan's mind long after the dinner ended. Back home, Diem was sitting on the balcony wrapped in a blanket. When he arrived, she looked up and managed a soft smile, though her eyes were tired. Long day, she asked. He nodded and joined her, placing an arm around her shoulder. You ever feel like you're holding on to something so precious? You're afraid just touching it too hard might break it, he whispered. Dean turned to him. You don't need to be gentle with me like I'm fragile, she said. I've walked through fire. I'm still here. Toan looked at her and saw again the strength beneath her quiet demeanor. He realized then that no third person, no matter how beautiful or competent, could compare to the woman who had saved him when he was lost not just in the forest, but in life. But Thong wasn't done, and the real test of love was still ahead. In a world filled with confusion, temptation, and choices that test the strength of the heart, true, honest love remains one of the most powerful guiding lights. This story reminds us that even when life introduces a third person or circumstances that stir doubt, it is the depth of emotional connection, shared hardship, and mutual respect that sustains love through storms. Toan and Tu Diem's journey is not perfect. It is full of misunderstandings, past scars, and the presence of someone like Thong who may seem like a safer choice or a new beginning. But real love is not about choosing what's easy, it's about choosing what's real. When someone has stood by you through your lowest points, seen your brokenness, and still loved you without asking for anything in return, that's not something to trade away lightly. It's in those moments of temptation or confusion that we are forced to ask, do I follow my heart, or do I chase comfort? The story teaches us to look deeper, to value those who love us not for what we have but for who we are. It also teaches us that love is a decision we make every day, not just when it's convenient, but especially when it's hard. In the end, the heart doesn't just beat, it remembers. And sometimes, it's the small, quiet light of a kind soul like Tu Diem that keeps someone like Toan from falling into the darkness. Never underestimate the love that quietly stayed while everything else tried to pull you away.